Welcome to the Drilling Millions podcast, presented by Sage Dental Partners.
I think there's so much to be done in the space of, I don't even want to say advertising, but more education, both on the patient and dentist front on what DSOs and corporate dentistry really is, because I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there. I was talking to Guy Amini from Dental Corp. He was on the podcast a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. Brought up that same point, which is there are a lot of benefits to this corporate model. And I think that people have this knee-jerk reaction just to steer away from it. But if you really dig deep into it, it's a really good model for both dentists and patients.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly I've grown up and lived in some form out of that all my professional life. I really do believe that group practice is the best way to practice. But the thing here is that you really do need to be a team player. So you can't just be on your own little corner and do whatever it is that you want to do, because that's also part of human resource management, right? You need to have the teams work together and provide the care that you need to provide. So the group model just accentuates that.
Definitely. Why do you think there's that misunderstanding amongst dentists, and because dentists are just as guilty of it as patients, right? I think dentists have this knee-jerk reaction away from corps. And
yeah. I'll let them answer that. I just think that it's not the group, the large group that I'm as you can be in a large group or small. It's the group practice. It's being able to go to a facility and practice with like-minded people, and be able to deliver the same, consistently high care. I think that's the model. Whether it's out of one clinic or out of 10 clinics, it's the practicing in that one location with the like-minded people and caring for that community. It drives a whole bunch of other things. If you're using a facility 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, those fixed costs go down. You're driving revenue. You can hire better managers. You can hire better receptionists. You can hire better IT people. It just feeds on itself. And then, of course, if you have all of that, then you're providing better care. You're being noticed by the community, and that gets you the referrals coming back. So I don't know what people have against us, something like that, but certainly some people do.
Mm-hmm. So when you were growing, and as you continue to grow, how important was having a DDS in this pursuit? Because there's a lot of notable DSOs, in the States as well as in Canada, that haven't been started by people with a dental degree. So yeah. How did that factor into the whole situation?
I think we go back to the thing that I mentioned a little bit earlier. We try to run these practices as if we were working in these practices, and there are nuances to working in a practice, same patients, dealing with staff, and not ever having done that before. And I think it's those little nuances that make us different from DSOs that aren't governed and run by DDSs.
Right. Because I think right now everyone with a big pool of money just wants to dump it into dental practices because they see the cash flow. And they see, it's somewhat recession resistant. And I think everyone is just trying to do a roll up right now. But I think people don't realize that it's a lot more work than they think it is.
Yes. And with low interest rates, it could be, you're allowed to make a lot more mistakes than, what historically you were able to do. So a lot of money is flowing into healthcare industry with the way they're being. I think it's interest driven, some of this, but I do think you do need to have an understanding of the nuances associated with being in practice.
Right. Do you see folks come into the space and kind of laugh a little bit and say, "Oh, you're in for a surprise"?
You know what? For the most part, I haven't seen that. I'm just trying to think of what it is. But it probably is because of our environment. We're us and 1 to 3 are the second and third largest entities. All the other ones that I know of are dentist-led, except for Delco. And they've done really well too. So, I mean, extremely well. So I haven't seen the, somebody coming in thinking it's easy, spending a ton of money and then leaving. The only thing I've seen is a couple of, earlier on, a couple of dentists biting a little bit more than they could chew. Because you do, again, with this 1 to 2 to 3 practices, you probably can do with a small team of people. Once you start getting to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you really do need to have some good talent around you that understands business, understands HR. Once you get to the 40, 50, 60, again, different set of talent, different skill set of people that you need around, with a much better, much more organized, much more experienced use of all the tools that you need to run groups.
Right. And that was going to actually be my next question, which was, at what point did you hit that critical mass where you started seeing, those efficiencies that are, so often sought after when you look at some of these practice roll-ups? Was it 10 practices, 20, 30, 40, 100?
Yeah. It was 10.
It was 10.
It was 10. Yeah, it was right around 10. And it was it was about 19. It was about 10.
And what efficiencies in particular did you start seeing?
It was really centralizing the accounting group, centralizing the HR group, centralizing the marketing group, and having and the IT group. The economic side of the equation was purchasing power. Most people talk about, what's 1%? Why spend all that time saving 1% on sundries? Instead of being at 7, why you can drive it down to 6. But when you're talking about, 10, 15, 20, 100 clinics, 1% of revenue is quite a lot of money. So and I'm just giving you one piece of it. Those efficiencies are become much more important. The other one was the use of people, the use of where you put your people at different times. When the pandemic hit, our downtown offices were almost shut down. I mean, we were seeing very, very few people. The suburbs were booming. All those people that used to go downtown were staying at home and going to the dentist at home. So what we were able to do is take our downtown people and spread them back up to support the clinics up north. I don't think you can do that with one clinic. Right. Absolutely. So where everybody was having a hard time, what do you do with your staff? Of course, there was government support and all that. That was great, but the outside clinics were very busy. But then they couldn't find staff. What we had was built in. They moved up.
Right, and that's the advantage of that, right? Is that they have a whole network of practices to choose from.
Yeah.
Obviously, you started this thing with your business partner, but I know a couple of practice owners that sometimes feel like they're drowning with just one practice. I wonder if they've ever hit a point where just because of how logistically challenging dentistry is and how many moving parts there are, if you've ever felt like, oh my God, I'm drowning, like this is ridiculous.
You know what? It's I'm shaking my head as no, because I haven't. It's because we've got some really, really great people around us. And our CFO or COO, they're extremely experienced people, and they have good people around them. So it's a matter of, again, the HR piece doesn't go away. It's always there. You got to have good people around you. You got to have a good team. Everybody's got to be rowing in the same direction. And if somebody isn't, you need to figure out how to correct it. And as long as they're rowing in the same direction, I don't get the headaches.
That's true. And from a marketing perspective, do you guys have a centralized marketing? Like, are all of your practices marketed under the same name, or do some keep the same storefront? Yeah. I know that's something that I think you have a little bit of both.
Yeah, when we first started in the early days, everything was branded Ultima. And as long as we stayed within the GTA, so to speak, it was a good thing to do, because you could just, put 1680 news ad, covers the GTA. You could just call yourself Ultima and you're done. Things started to change a little bit when we started getting outside the GTA and outside Ontario. For instance, we have a group in Regina called Regina Dental. Well, that's a great name for Regina. So we stopped changing, branding the clinics with Ultima. There's Ultima's the holdco. There are some branded names of Ultima. There are Ultima commercials, especially in the GTA. But outside, we use the local brands, all the goodwill associated with them. We try and build on it. So the marketing team will run ads or campaigns under that particular brand's name.
Is that pretty important to the principal dentist that you're acquiring? Is it important that they keep the same storefront? What have you seen in your experience?
Again, this was one of our learning hiccups. When we built them, it was easy to call them Ultima. When they're in Toronto, we used to change a given location to Ultima X or da-da-da. And we also would turn around, put our own systems in place. We put in our computer system, and all of those things were things we felt were important, but they didn't add any value to the clinic. We put in a new computer system. The productivity used to go like this. So now what we've done is, again, we do change some of the business systems. Most of the systems in the back room get centralized. So, like as I said, accounting, HR, marketing, payables, and so on and so forth do get centralized, and that is where it's handled. It allows the clinic team more time to spend time on patient care and patient services. So I think that's a plus. And we do not change anything in terms of what the patient sees. So nothing much changes. Even the computer system, we've been fortunate enough now with new technology to be able to keep the computer system that the practice has typically used, and then have another system that will sit on top and sift through the information that we need at head office to make sure that the clinic functions properly.
Right. And what does this transition mean to the dentist that's giving you, in a lot of senses, their baby, right? Because it could have been something that they've been working on for 30 years. It's really important to them. They have their whole life surrounded, around this practice. What does it typically mean for them?
It means that they have more control over what they can do than they ever would have had before. It means that if they still want to participate in the monthly meetings, if they still want to look at their P&Ls, if they still want total control over their marketing, they can have it. But it also means that if they just want to come and do dentistry and let us or the teams that we've put around them manage those, that can happen as well.
Right. And does Ultima offer somewhat of an a la carte service? We'll help where you need, or is it sort of like we'll give you all of our processes and that'll kind of help you integrate into our system? Which kind of school of thought?
A la carte insinuates that they pay differently, and that's not the case. But the concept of, here are our business systems. This is what we want to do. We're going to put these in, and then you can participate in or as much or as little as you want. That's more correct. We do not interfere at all with the clinical side of the equation. Doctors treat their patients the way they've been treated. We look for good practices, and we hope that we are partnering with good practices that have been around for a long time and have a good reputation. So if that is true, then what are we doing coming in and trying to change any of that?
Right. You just give the doctors the authority and autonomy to practice their own dentistry without having to worry about all the back end stuff that they probably don't want to worry about to begin with.
Exactly.